Welcome to Rising. It's a big morning for us. Obviously, it's debate reaction morning. Briahna, I know you were up way too late because I saw you posting in the Slack at 2:40 a.m.
Look, nobody can accuse me of not working hard for the money. I know, not only live tweeted the debate, I hopped on a rowing machine and watched the Donald Trump interview in full on the Tucker Carlson show, and then I had to scan the internet for everybody else's take, so I'm fully prepared to get into the details with you this morning.
Well, let's get right into it. We're going to talk, obviously, about the Republican debate in a little bit, but we're going to start with what Donald Trump was up to as this was going on. Take it away.
Well, Robby, as many of you are aware, Donald Trump is back with a new Tucker Carlson interview, and of course, he held no punches back when hitting out against Fox News in their choice to have a primary debate with his fellow candidates and without him. More interestingly, Carlson pressed Trump on whether he thinks he'll be Epstein'd.
Do you think it's possible that Epstein was killed?
Oh, sure, it's possible. I mean, I don't really believe. I think he probably committed suicide. He had a life with, beautiful homes and beautiful everything, and he all of a sudden he's incarcerated and not doing very well. I would say that he did, but there are those people. There are many people. I think you're one of them, right? But a lot of people think that he was killed. He knew a lot on a lot of people.
He was killed.
You think so?
I think the closer you look, I'm not a conspiracy person at all. I believe everything I hear. But yeah, the closer you look into it, I mean, the Attorney General of the United States, your Attorney General, clearly lied about the Epstein death.
Yeah,
and
he was.
Why?
He was certainly. It wasn't well done. They had no cameras. They had no anything. Everybody was sleeping, and a case could be made. Look, I'm not going to get involved in it, but I can tell you, a case could be made either way. But it certainly wasn't the most well-run place.
So the reason I'm asking you is I'm looking at the trajectory since 2015 when you got into politics, for real, and then won. It started with protests against you, massive protests, right. Organized protests by the left, and then it moved to impeachment twice,
right.
And now indictment. I mean, the next stage is violence. Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
They're savage animals. They are people that are sick, really sick.
So, of course, the gambit here was that Donald Trump chose not to do the Republican debate that was airing at the same time and felt like he could go to this alternative news platform with Tucker Carlson and do counter-programming that could pull a large audience. It seems to have done that. I think there's over 150 million views. That's a little bit of a squishy number because, of course, Twitter views mean that it could just be someone scrolling by the tweet.
Through.
But the engagement is also pretty high. It seems to have done something. But is this discourse about whether or not Donald Trump is going to get Epstein'd and Tucker Carlson repeatedly asking him if he thinks he's going to get killed and if Epstein really killed himself and if Trump feels under threat? It felt like a weird choice of a narrative to compete with all of the excitement that was happening over on Fox News.
I mean, it was great content. I mean, we talk about the Richard Epstein case a lot, the Virgin Islands case, because there's obvious interest in it, and it's something, and there's interest in it from a alternative news perspective because the mainstream media didn't take it very seriously and didn't do a good job covering it for so long. They ignored it. So that's why there's this healthy appetite for it. Tucker obviously understands that as someone who is bringing some of that energy to his cable news show, is certainly bringing even more of that energy to what he's doing on Twitter X. Whether that is good for Donald Trump's reelection prospects is a totally different question. Why does Donald Trump really? I mean, Donald Trump kind of acknowledges there he doesn't even really think Epstein did that there was something nefarious. He thinks he probably killed himself. He doesn't actually sound like he thinks they're going to try to kill him. So I don't know if this is good for, Trump needs to explain not just, how he's been wronged and how everyone's after him, but he has to bring new people into the coalition, right? There weren't enough voters last time, if he's being honest with himself and if people who support him are being honest. So how do you convince new people to join his positive vision for America, whatever that might be? Yeah. The more time you're spending talking about whether Epstein killed himself, that seems like not a great opportunity, although I fully admit and acknowledge that people have a lot of interest in that question because we talk about it a lot too. And so I fully understand why Tucker wants to go there and why it's a successful production on the platform. But you can have different interests here
Well,
and not
of
always
course,
have them aligned.
They also talked about the 2020 election. Donald Trump might argue, in fact, in response to what you just said, that he doesn't actually need more votes, that he got more votes in 2020 than he did in 2016, which is true, but he needed his opponent to get fewer votes. And there was an argument that voter dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party, just voter dissatisfaction in general, that this is another Trump-Biden matchup, which 75% of Americans absolutely don't want, will be enough to suppress Biden's numbers, presuming he's the nominee, in a way that can allow Trump to win without bringing any new people into the fold. But interestingly, during this interview, Donald Trump seemed to be skeptical that Joe Biden would actually make it to the finish line, referencing the fact that Gavin Newsom in particular has shown some interest, positioning himself in the ways that we discussed on this show to be the next nominee, and even said that he likes and has always gotten along with Gavin Newsom.
I think we have that SOTA, actually. Let's go ahead and play it.
And the reason is because crooked Joe Biden is so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country. I don't think he's going to make it to the gate, but you never know. But he's a corrupt person, so corrupt that I took the name off Hillary. I don't do two people at one time. I took the crooked Hillary and I retired the name. That was a good day for her. I bet she was very happy. And I used it for Joe because it's crooked Joe. But Joe is really...
But you don't think he's going to make it to November of 24?
Well, I think he's worse mentally than he is physically. And physically, he's not exactly a triathlete or any kind of an athlete. You look at him, he can't walk to the helicopter. He walks, he can't lift his feet out of the grass. It's only 2 inches at the White House, right? That's not a lot. But you watch him, and it looks like he's walking on toothpicks. So, and then you see him on the beach where he can't lift a chair. Those chairs are meant to be light, right?
Trump said his job isn't beach. No beach.
Yes. Barbie reference.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So look, what do you make of this? I do think it's reflecting a widely held concern, including among Democrats. And I would tend to agree with Trump. I don't think the beach is Biden's best look, but is this what you expected out of this interview?
Yeah, he has to say, and Trump obviously wants to point out that it's a physical and a mental problem for Joe Biden, not necessarily just an age problem, because Trump has the same age problem.
Yeah.
He's also quite old,
Yeah.
so he doesn't want to make it about age per se, which he does, which he clarifies that whenever it's brought up. Look, this is a moment where Joe Biden is facing a lot of scrutiny for a variety of reasons, including the Hunter Biden stuff, which, as you pointed out, the genie's out of the bottle on that one. With respect to even mainstream media coverage of it. And that's going to put potentially Joe Biden in a very perilous position. And obviously even so many polled Democrats are not thrilled about him being their standard bearer. But I mean, the way the trajectory of things looks like he will in fact be the nominee, and that Trump will in fact be the nominee if it comes down to a vote. If I don't know if his legal issues mount so ferociously that he just gets tired of also running. Running for president is another thing I have to do in addition to attending 4 trials that maybe he doesn't. I think that's really the only way that they don't end up being the duo. Yeah. But obviously there were a lot of people on stage for the Republican debate making the case that, not just should Trump, if he's somehow taken out, but you should actually vote for them over Trump for the nomination, and they made that case, and we're going to discuss
talk about that
in just a minute.
Although, one thing about this is that I'm surprised that that Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump didn't talk more about the Hunter Biden case escalations. It came up very tangentially. I think Donald Trump made some reference to how the choice to censor the Biden laptop off of Twitter was a kind of election interference that some expert he referenced says allotted or earned Joe Biden some large number of votes that would have been decisive if they hadn't actually censored that information. But he didn't take the opportunity to really hit Hunter Biden or Joe Biden vis-a-vis Hunter Biden. There was, of course, toward the end of the interview, after a lengthy colloquy about the Panama Canal, for some reason.
I'll admit I tuned out the Panama Canal part.
It was entertaining in the way that Donald Trump has a way of talking about things that is weirdly entertaining. But they finally got back on track in the last third of the interview, talking about Of course, today, where he is going to submit himself at the Fulton County courthouse for his mugshot and the charges against him. And Donald Trump reiterated a lot of the election denial claims that he's done so far, and characterized the indictment against him as about him, they're trying to make it illegal for me to investigate whether or not I won the election. They're trying to make it illegal for me to contest the results of the election in the same way that Stacey Abrams did, in the same way that Hillary Clinton did. And there was some frustration I saw among, I guess, liberals in the media, generally speaking, that there wasn't any pushback at all from Tucker Carlson. Not to say you're wrong necessarily, but even just to say, well, what about the actual charges that are being put against you in terms of the election interference charges, the fake slate of electors, the conspiracy charges here?
Yeah, I think that was sort of a missed opportunity, and we would like to hear, even because Tucker's a friendly question asker from this perspective, so it might be refreshing to hear someone who is on some level rooting for Trump or rooting for a lot of policies, rather than a Caitlin Collins, and see how he responds to that.
Because Trump is gonna have to respond to these charges meaningfully at some point. And so if the argument is, well, I don't want to give my legal strategy away,
just like my tax returns or something, I can't. Well, I can. I'm still in a tizzy with the IRS, so I can't show you that.
Right, sure. Yeah. But it did feel like a little bit of a missed opportunity, and I do wonder if at some point the audience is going to get tired of him saying the same pat lines, which increasingly are being seen as untrue, as the media is being forced through these indictments, engaging with a bunch of new material that I know the conservatives haven't really heard much before. Are you now just hearing about Michigan state officials plotting to stay overnight in the House Capitol so that they can put together a knowingly fake state of electors? Do you really want the public to be hit with that information in the 11th hour? Or do you want to do what a good lawyer will do at trial, which is to get the unfriendly stuff out of your witness on direct so it has less of a punch in the cross?
Well, now Trump is expected to surrender in Atlanta this evening. We will, of course, be covering that in tomorrow's show. In the meantime, more Rising, more debate coverage right after this.